Hi, this is Mr. Anderson. In this video, we are looking at physical properties. And what I've done is put together a short collection of video snippets I've made to try and present to you the different properties of matter. Before we see these videos, let's talk about what physical properties actually are. When we say physical properties, what we mean in chemistry are observations or measurements of matter. When we say matter, we mean stuff. So when we look at something, we want to know, does it have color? Does it have texture? What else can we record about its appearance? What phase, which means the same thing of state of matter, is it in? That's solid, liquid, gas. I don't have it here, but it's also plasma. Well, its mass, volume, or density. Conduction, meaning does it transfer heat or electricity? Is it magnetic? Does the substance dissolve? There are probably a couple strange ones you may not even be familiar with. Something like malleability or ductility. We'll talk about those in a bit. All right, but others you probably do know of, like hardness and odor. So let's start going through a few. Hi, this is Mr. Anderson, and today we're talking about matter. Stuff like this. Matter is all around us. It makes up everything. In fact, chemists spent such a long time trying to figure out what all the matter was around us, they thought it was important enough to make into a periodic table. And all those elements on the periodic table have their own physical properties. And physical properties are the things about matter that we can observe. Like we can see that this matter is white, right? If we get it close enough to the camera, you can see that it has this crystal shape to it. And I don't normally recommend touching matter that we don't know, but I know that this matter's safe. So it's kind of hard, crunchy, makes a little crunch sound, almost like sand when you touch it. So there are lots of different physical properties of matter, and we need to be able to describe them. So one physical property, let's put this back over here for you, is color. Here we can see two different colors of matter. Another physical property of matter can be shape. Let's look at a couple. So, first up, we can talk about general appearance. So we've already discussed a little bit color. So here are three different objects. And each of these different objects have different color. They have a different shape. They have a different level of shininess. And I bet you that some of these might float and some of these would probably sink. So let's take a look at floating and sinking. So here's some water. And I've got these two objects here. So one of them might float. Maybe both of them will float. Let's find out. Does this one float? Hey, it does. Does this one float? No, it sank. Well, that's a physical property. Okay. All physical properties have mass. All objects have mass and volume. Turning on the balance here, try and get it in the frame so you can see it also. Here's an object. Let's check its mass. 62.91 grams. So that tells us how much matter's in this object. But all objects that have matter have mass. All objects have mass. And mass is made up of matter. Matter takes up space, and we measure that space by an object's volume. To do that, we use something like this. This is a graduated cylinder, and we'll tilt the graduated cylinder I should mention that our starting volume on this graduated cylinder is 50 milliliters. So we'll tilt it and slowly slide the object in. And our volume has changed to 57. So the volume of that object is 7 milliliters. So state of matter is a very important property. It tells us at what temperature something will actually change phases and turn into a gas. So here's some water that I boiled in a kettle, and the water started out in liquid form, and now some of it's hot enough you may be able to see on the camera it's changing to steam. So it's changing phase or changing physical state of matter. Some objects are magnetic. Some types of matter can conduct electricity. For example, here's a big battery. And to attach to a big battery, you might want something like some wire. So wire and batteries are two objects that can conduct, that means allow electricity to travel. These objects could also conduct heat. Remember, conduct means to allow to travel. So these things could transfer electricity or heat. Right? Again, not all objects could do that. Some objects have different levels of tensile strength, meaning they can be pulled farther without breaking. For example, here's some fishing line. And if you've ever gone fishing, you've noticed that different lines have different weights. The greater the weight, the more the line can bend or be pulled without actually breaking apart. Another property we should mention with wire is something we call ductility. Some materials, like copper in this wire, can be pounded and then pulled into a thin strand like these. Not all materials can do that. I bet you've never pulled baking soda in the kitchen into a thin wire like this. Some objects are malleable. Here are two examples. These are both types of metal that have been pounded into thin sheets. So malleability is being pounded into a thin sheet. Not all materials can do that. For example, back to our compound here, that cannot be pounded into a thin sheet. So it is not malleable.